Simpsons predictions for 2025. What if I told you that a cartoon, a funny little show about a yellow family in Springfield, has been predicting our future for decades? And what if I told you that 2025 might be their biggest year yet? Hold on tight, because the predictions we're about to reveal will blow your mind. Could the show have predicted even the recent fires in the news? Since 1989, The Simpsons have been entertaining us with their quirky humor and bizarre antics. But there's one thing that keeps fans scratching their heads. How do they keep getting the future so right? From predicting precise natural fire disasters and even major global events, their track record is scary accurate. And now, their predictions for 2025 are here. The cartoon even predicted the presidency of Donald Trump. Is it a joke, a coincidence, or something much bigger? The Simpsons predicted Donald Trump's presidency nearly 2 decades before it happened, and the details will blow your mind. In the year 2000, The Simpsons aired an episode called Bart to the Future. In it, Lisa becomes president of the United States and mentions inheriting a financial crisis from President Donald Trump. Yes, you heard that right. President Trump. Think about it. This was 16 years before Donald Trump announced his candidacy. Back then, the idea of Trump as president seemed like a punchline, a joke about America's fascination with celebrity culture. But, as we all know, that joke became reality in 2016. What's even crazier? The show didn't just predict Trump as president. It got the details shockingly accurate. In 2015, Donald Trump announced his candidacy for president by riding an escalator at Trump Tower. The scene was unforgettable, Trump waving to cheering supporters as he descended. But here's the kicker. The Simpsons had already animated this exact moment years earlier. From the positioning of the crowd to Trump's wave, even down to a sign falling in the background, it's almost identical. How could they possibly have known? When Trump won in 2016, the internet went wild. Memes, tweets, videos. Everyone was talking about how The Simpsons called it. Some people joked that the show's writers must be time travelers. Others were genuinely freaked out. Hey, at this point, can you blame them? The Simpsons have a track record that's almost too good to be true. And this was not their only prediction. The Simpsons also has a few predictions for 2025. Here's where it gets even more unsettling. In one episode, Springfield is hit by a major economic crisis. Banks fail, jobs vanish, and chaos erupts. Sound familiar? Well, economists today are warning about a potential recession in 2025. Rising debt, global instability, and tech layoffs. Could The Simpsons have seen this coming too? Here's where it gets scary. If The Simpsons are right, we might be looking at a recession that rivals the 2008 financial crisis. Imagine mass layoffs, skyrocketing prices, and industries struggling to stay afloat. Let's talk about one prediction that's sending shivers down spines in 2025. Back in 1987, Homer wakes up in a panic, yelling that World War III has started. The family scrambles to find a bomb shelter. While the episode was played for laughs, recent events have fans wondering if this prediction was actually a warning. The world is no stranger to conflict, but in the last few years, tensions have reached a boiling point. China's growing influence and increased global arms races have created a powder keg just waiting for a spark. Did the creators know something we didn't? Some fans think The Simpsons might be hinting at the possibility of a global conflict. In fact, in multiple episodes, there are references to nuclear weapons, geopolitical tensions, and even cyber warfare. Imagine this. Cyber attacks take down entire power grids. Drones patrol the skies, and nations scramble to defend themselves. What would that world look like? If there's one thing history has taught us, it's that wars aren't just fought with weapons. They're fought with technology, resources, and alliances. Global internet outage. Imagine waking up one day and everything you rely on, social media, online banking, streaming, even your smart fridge, is gone. Sounds impossible? Well, The Simpsons thought of it first. Bam! A flicker, and the screens go black. This eerie silence wasn't just any blackout. It was the day the internet vanished. The power goes out, servers crash, and Springfield's finest, Homer and Bart, scramble to survive the apocalypse of no Wi-Fi. If you thought that was just cartoon silliness, think again, because what happened in Springfield might just be our future. But how realistic is this? Could the entire world lose its internet? And if it did, what would happen to society? One cyber attack, one solar flare, one wrong move could bring it all crashing down. Here's a prediction that hits close to home. In Season 10, Episode 13 of The Simpsons, titled Sunday, Cruddy Sunday, there's a scene that seems innocent enough. Homer, Bart, and a few friends are passing by a Hollywood movie studio when, out of nowhere, chaos erupts. The studio goes up in flames, the fire spreading across the set as panicked workers scramble to put it out. At the time, it seemed like another comedic exaggeration of Springfield's notorious unpredictability. But what if this wasn't just an ordinary gag? Could it have been foreshadowing something more serious? A catastrophic fire in the heart of Hollywood in 2025? More Simpsons prophecy in 2025 include colonization of Mars. In the Marge Ian Chronicles, Lisa and Marge participate in trials to become the first colonists on Mars, with the goal of establishing a colony by 2026, later delayed to 2051. This mirrors real-world ambitions, such as Elon Musk's SpaceX plans to send humans to Mars in the late 2020s and build a self-sustaining city by 2050. Virtual reality integration. In Friends and Family, widespread use of virtual reality leads to societal issues, echoing current discussions about the impact of immersive technologies on daily life. World War III references. Early shorts and episodes reference World War III, reflecting ongoing global tensions and the ever-present concern about large-scale conflicts. While these episodes present fictional scenarios, they often resonate with real-world developments, leading to discussions about the show's prescient nature. Here are additional predictions and connections from The Simpsons episodes that resonate with current and future trends potentially relevant to 2025. Increased surveillance and loss of privacy. In Homer Badman, surveillance and media sensationalism take center stage. By 2025, with advancements in facial recognition, smart cameras, and data collection, privacy will likely remain a significant concern. Here's a wild card. In one episode, Springfield is caught in the middle of a political showdown between two superpowers. The world teeters on the edge of conflict. Fast forward to today, and tensions between global powers are rising. Will 2025 be the year things come to a head? And could The Simpsons have predicted the next big geopolitical crisis? First things first, The Simpsons writers are geniuses at spotting trends. They're not fortune tellers, they're observers. The show started in 1989, during a time of rapid technological, political, and cultural change. The writers didn't just pull ideas out of thin air. They looked at where society was heading. But hey, even the best have their off days. For every prediction that hits the bullseye, there's one that totally misses the mark. Remember when they predicted a colony on Mars by 2012? Spoiler alert, we're still stuck here on Earth. However, there is a more accurate prediction that we can look forward to. The Bible is a history book unlike any other available in any public library. Its history starts with the Earth's creation and ends with the world's end. This is the only history book that covers such a broad range of events on planet Earth, partially because no one was present at the beginning to witness and document it, and therefore no one can write the beginning of our world authoritatively. We are the only people in the world who know how it will all end. That is unique. The Lord did not reveal the future to his followers to satisfy their curiosity. He showed it to prepare them so that they would not be surprised when it arrived and that they would not misinterpret it. Be grateful that Jesus was so forthright in sharing the future for us. People ask, are we in the end times? However, the Bible talks of the last days, and we have been in those last days for 2,000 years. The last days, they started at Pentecost, where the first prophecy of the last days was fulfilled. Every Christian generation should live to be ready for the Lord's return. The Bible is a book full of predictions. Its pages contain 735 predictions about the future. A prediction can be found in 1/4 of the Bible's chapters. From beginning to end, it is basically a prophetic text, though some books focus more on predictions than others. 596 of the 735 predictions have indeed occurred and have literally come true according to the scripture prediction. So, 81% of all Bible prophecies have already come true, and some of those prophecies were made centuries before the case. It doesn't take much confidence to believe that the remaining 19% will happen as well. That's a very high score. The Bible has proved 100% right for every prediction that could have been fulfilled by now. Of the rest, most of them are concerned with the actual return of Jesus and what follows after that. How many of these predictions remain to come true before Jesus returns? The answer is about 20, and we're watching to see those happen first, before we look for the Lord's return. Jesus told us to watch and pray. What do we watch? We cannot stand still and watch the clouds to wait for him to appear. That is not what he meant. He meant, keep an eye on what's going on in the world and see what signs I gave you to help you prepare. Signals are the signs. So, let's look at Matthew chapter 24, where the disciples asked him, what will be the signs or signals of your return? What would we do if we don't know when it's going to happen? To their inquiry, Jesus gave a direct and unambiguous answer. We can thank God that he responded in such a straightforward manner. In the book of Revelation, he gives a much more detailed and comprehensive response. But here, he gives a rundown of the signs that will precede his arrival. The disciples approached Jesus secretly, as he was seated on the Mount of Olives. Matthew 24:3-36. Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and said, tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world? Jesus told them, don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming, I am the Messiah. They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars. But don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated all over the world because you are my followers. And many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world, so that all nations will hear it. And then the end will come. The day is coming when you will see what Daniel the prophet spoke about, the sacrilegious object that causes desecration standing in the holy place. Reader, pay attention. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. A person out on the deck of a roof must not go down into the house to pack. A person out in the field must not return even to get a coat. How terrible it will be for pregnant women and for nursing mothers in those days. And pray that your flight will not be in winter or on the Sabbath, for there will be greater anguish than at any time since the world began, and it will never be so great again. In fact, unless that time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive. But it will be shortened for the sake of God's chosen ones. Then, if anyone tells you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones. See, I have warned you about this ahead of time. So if someone tells you, "Look, the Messiah is out in the desert," don't bother to go and look. Or, "Look, he is hiding here," don't believe it. For as the lightning flashes in the east and shines to the west, so it will be when the Son of Man comes. Just as the gathering of vultures shows there is a carcass nearby, so these signs indicate that the end is near. Immediately after the anguish of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give no light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. And then, at last, the sign that the Son of Man is coming will appear in the heavens, and there will be deep mourning among all the peoples of the earth. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with the mighty blast of a trumpet, and they will gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the farthest ends of the earth and heaven. Now, learn a lesson from the fig tree. When its branches bud and its leaves begin to sprout, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, you can know his return is very near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear. However, no one knows the day or hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. Only the Father knows. Now, in that passage, he gave 4 distinct signs of his coming. One of the 4 signs is already there, while the other 3 are not. That is why, I say, we are in the beginning of the end times. So, what exactly are these 4 signs he gave us? The first is clearly disasters in the world, and he mentions, for example, wars, famines, and earthquakes. These are certainly happening, but they have been happening for over 2,000 years. They are getting more intense. So we certainly are in this first sign. There are already wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, and famine. Jesus says, "Don't be deceived." He says that again and again, all the way through. As we get nearer to the end, the danger is deception, both inside and outside the church. In this case, he says, from false Christs, false messiahs, people who will take advantage of the turmoil of natural disasters to present themselves as saviors. There are well-known examples of people who pretended to be saviors and led people into desert locations, only to end in tragedy. However, there are many false Christs, false saviors, who claim to be the promised deliverer from all our troubles. The more problems there are, the more false deliverers there would be. But, as Jesus advises us, don't be alarmed. Don't be worried when you learn of a new war, a new tragedy, or a new famine breaking out. He said something astonishing. These are painful events, but they are not pangs of death. They are birth pains. So when you read of disasters in the media, these are the pains that mean something new is about to be born. This should completely change our attitude. We know what the world is coming to. We should not be alarmed or dismayed, not as worried as the world will be about these things. Disasters in the world are the pain of birth in a new world that is to be born. Therefore, we are very different. We have sympathy for those who are suffering disasters, and hopefully we express it in help. But in our hearts, we are not alarmed. We are hopeful. We are looking for a new birth of a new world, and therefore we are not dismayed or depressed by all the problems in the world. In short, Jesus' advice to us would be not to panic, not to be disturbed, but even to rejoice and say, "These are all signs of something new happening." The second sign. The second sign of his coming is not in the world, but in the church. Disasters in the world are the first sign. The church, not the world, is the second sign of his coming. Just as he divided the first sign into three parts, wars, earthquakes, and famines, he divides the second sign into three parts, all of which occur within the church. The first is persecution, that we will be hated in every nation. The second aspect of this sign would be a significant reduction in the church's size. Most people's love will grow cold. When the whole church is under strain, many nominal Christians, if not all true Christians, would leave. Under the burdens of universal persecution, their love would grow cold. That's a very depressing sign. The big surprise in the third part of the sign is that the gospel will be preached to every racial group. The third part of the sign is that the gospel will be proclaimed. A smaller, purified church would have a greater impact on the planet. That is exactly what Jesus is implying. False prophets can be a source of deceit in all of this. We are aware of the teachings of false prophets. When there is no peace, they teach peace. Rather than being a source of challenge, their message is one of comfort. It's all right. It won't happen, they'll say. All is fine. Everything is fantastic. The church is in good hands. That is a false prediction. They may be to blame for the large number of people who would leave the church at that time. Now, Jesus' advice is to keep going. Don't give in to these false prophets. Whoever perseveres to the end will be saved. When that sign occurs, when all aspects of the church are despised by the world, that is Jesus' advice to all Christians. Why should that be the case? The answer is that wheat and tares grow together, and the closer they get to full maturity, the more tension there will be between them, so it's only natural that Christians will be under a lot of pressure in the end. Christians are social misfits, so there would be hatred. This world does not belong to us. Our citizenship is in the heavenly realms. We are unique, and it is because of our uniqueness that hate can arise. Since Jesus was so different from everyone else, he drew hate against himself. John 15:19. If you were of the world, it would love you as its own. Instead, the world hates you, because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. Third sign. That takes us to the third sign of the end times, which is Jerusalem's distress. Geographically, it will be very limited. In this passage, Jesus quotes Daniel's prophecies, and there is a character in Daniel's prophecies who is referred to as the abomination of desolation. Daniel mentions it 3 times. What does it all mean? What's the big deal? It's about a human being, a man, who establishes himself in the very city of God, calls himself God, and refuses to accept anyone else's will above his own. A tyrant whose arrival will have global ramifications, but who will be centered in Jerusalem, the city of God, the holy place. Then Jesus says that the fourth sign of his coming will come immediately after that. So we shall know when he is coming. We shall be ready. When that sign comes, there will be no danger of false prophets or false messiahs. There will be no deception. It will be too quick. What will happen is that all natural light will be switched off. The sun will go dark. The stars will fall. There are many predictions of this all the way through the Bible. Isaiah predicts it. The heavens will be rolled up like a carpet. All the stars of heaven will be dissolved. The skies will be rolled up like a scroll, and all their stars will fall like withered leaves from the vine, like foliage from the fig tree, leaving only artificial light to illuminate the earth. What is happening? What is going on? People may ask. This is it, Christians will exclaim. The sun, stars, and moon stop shining right before that happens. God turns off the lights of heaven to prepare for the blaze of light from the lightning that will mark his return. Then he comes on the clouds back to planet Earth, and we meet him. We are not meeting in an earthly stadium, because there isn't one large enough to accommodate such a large crowd. We'll reach him in the air, and that'll suffice. Isn't that a fantastic prospect? When you see all these things, you know he is at the gates, just about to walk through, he says. Then Jesus gives a very simple statement about a fig tree, and this is where many Christians have gone astray. He says, "Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near." Jesus is telling us that when you notice all these events happen, you know that we are there. Now, that analogy of the fig tree is not an allegory. It is a straightforward analogy from everyday experiences, such as Jesus often presented in his teaching. You see the fig tree doing this. You say the summer is coming, and it will come. In the same style, when you notice these four signs, you know that summer is coming. Sadly, people have read it as an allegory. When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. In those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. People didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them all away. That is the way it will be when the Son of Man comes. Two men will be working together in the field. One will be taken, the other left. Two women will be grinding flour at the mill. One will be taken, the other left. So you too must keep watch, for you don't know what day your Lord is coming. Understand this: if a homeowner knew exactly when a burglar was coming, he would keep watch and not permit his house to be broken into. You also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. A faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if the servant is evil and thinks, "My master won't be back for a while," and he begins beating the other servants, partying, and getting drunk? The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will cut the servant to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The final passage is not a parable, but rather a straight prediction involving an analogy of sheep and goats. He finished that parable with dividing nations, everybody, and telling them why he divided them, because those who are on his left hand are those who ignored Christ in Christians. Insofar as they didn't help the least of these, his brothers, they were doing it not to him. But to the people on his right, he said, "You saw Christ in my brethren, and inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me." He is not dividing people into those who did philanthropy and those who didn't. The key is the meaning of the word brethren. When Christ said brethren, He always meant his own followers. Go and tell my brethren that I have risen from the dead. In the teaching of Jesus, brethren is a key word. It means those who follow me. He is simply saying, whatever you have done to Christians, or not done for them, was done to me or for me, or not for me. Their attitude toward Christ is revealed by their attitude to Christians, and that is the principle on which they are divided. Now let us consider all that we have seen in the passage. First, there is a warning that nobody has God's diary, that not even Jesus knew the date of his return. Angels didn't know it, and no man knew it. We should have a healthy ignorance of the date of his return. Nearer the time, as we watch for the signs, we will know. Mark 13:32. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Did you notice that one word appeared in all three parables? The parable of the home, the parable of the virgins, and the parable of the talents? The householder was a long time returning. The bridegroom was a long time coming. And the person who gave the talents was gone for a long time. He is looking for your faithfulness when he was away a long time. That is what he wants. He will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." There will be this separation in his coming between the faithful who have continued to do what he has left them to do, those who have every day remembered that he is coming back, and who have kept to the job and endured the suffering and been his good and faithful servants, and those who, because he has not come soon, have fallen into bad ways. Their lamp has gone out, and they no longer shine for Jesus, and they have buried their talents. In the book of Proverbs, we are warned that where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. Proverbs 29:18, NIV, or perish, KJV. There are two main objectives of the end-time church. God has in view as he brings about the restoration of the church. The church has a task to complete before Jesus can come back. Matthew 24:14 reads, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." All four gospels conclude with this commission to the apostles, and through them to the church universal. Disciples are to be made from every nation. It is God's desire and intention to have within his family humans from every tribe and language and people and nation. And they sang a new song, saying, "You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain. And with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation." After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands. Let us examine the great commission of Jesus Christ to his disciples after his resurrection. Jesus came and spoke to them, the disciples, saying, "Then Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." Matthew 28:18-20. There is a critical word here, therefore. We must never ignore the word therefore when we find it in Scripture. When you find a therefore in the Bible, you need to ask what it's there for. Jesus says, "All authority has been given to me. Go therefore." Why therefore? The authority was given by God the Father to Jesus, the Son, after his death and resurrection. Jesus, in turn, here transmits that authority to his disciples. In other words, he is saying, "All authority was given to me. Now you go and exercise that authority on my behalf. The authority is vested in my name. As you go in my name, you have my authority. Authority is only effective when it is exercised. A man can have authority and never use it, and nobody would ever know that he had that authority. So it is with the authority Jesus Christ has given us. It is given to us, but it is only useful if we use it. The only way the world will acknowledge the authority given to Jesus Christ as a result of his death and resurrection is for us, his followers, to exercise it on his behalf. Otherwise, the world is unaware of what Jesus has accomplished. It does not know that the Father has committed all authority to the Son. Only through our obedience to the commission of Jesus can the world ever be brought face to face with the fact that there is a King of kings and a Lord of lords whose name is Jesus, and all authority is given to him. We are accountable for demonstrating this to the world. As we obey Jesus' order and carry his message, he will validate it with the spiritual signs he promised and testify to his own authority in the word he has committed to us. There is one other reason why he says, "All authority is given to me. Go, therefore." As a result, go, therefore. There are several areas where traveling is extremely difficult. There are governments on the planet that oppose or refuse to preach the gospel. Today, there are many locked doors. But Jesus responds, "If you will go and follow me, remember that I have the authority. If you speak to me about it, I'll open those closed doors for you. I'll find a path where there isn't one. I will make it possible for you to follow me if you are willing to do so." The church's safety and progress are dependent on bold, optimistic outreach. That means not being afraid, not focusing solely on survival, and not hiding in a cave with some hoarded groceries. Bold, constructive outreach in obedience to the Lord is the path to safety and success. When we view the harvest from God's standpoint, we see that the initiative in world affairs is with the church. Seldom do God's people seem to realize that. The initiative is not about politicians, scientists, or military commanders, but about the people of God, the church. God will never allow the initiative to pass into other hands, while the church is here as the representative of his Son, Jesus Christ. Our second task is the unity in the church. We must have the right relationship with the ministries, the authorities that Jesus establishes in his church. This will set us in the right relationship with our fellow believers. We will then speak the truth in love, and as we speak the truth in love, under discipline and authority, we will cease to be spiritually dull infants. We are growing up into Christ. He is always the ultimate objective. We become members of this whole body, which is fitted and held together by what every joint supplies, where every individual part does its proper job. As a result, the body naturally grows out of its own inner resources and life. It achieves the building up of itself in love.